you need to have a person who's designated as a major expert, right? Major expert, where they can say, this is a place where we're deciding and exploring and talking about all of the possibilities so that you can make a good decision. And actually, that major expert has to be a job expert, because we want our students to have an eye on jobs, not just pick a major. Welcome, everybody, to Cap and Gown. I'm Rachel Phillips-Buck, VP for Student Success at Flourish Resources, joined today by our president, Matt Boisvert. Hey, Matt.
Hi, Rachel. It's our last one.
Yeah, this is episode 74. It is our last one for the season. We will be back in August. I think August 22nd is when we'll be back. And I did not call attention to the fact that I'm not unveiling our new backdrop today. We have a super exciting new backdrop for our podcast. And we got it, and Matt and I were debating on whether we should do it in the last show of the season. We really wanted to because it's beautiful and I wanted to use it, but we decided to wait. So we're going to be patient. But when you join us in August, we'll have a new backdrop. I'm looking forward to that. You and I are going to have to be careful today because this topic is one that we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to say about it. It harkens back to our work at a university where we work together on connecting college to career and then beyond with alumni. And so actually so many people at Flourish Resources worked with us in that work. So we have just a lot of very strong opinions about majors and career exploration and career readiness. And so it's going to be a great conversation to have.
I'm just going to follow your lead. And Rachel has this great little, she'll give me that kind of side eye, like you're running a little long, land the plane.
But listen, if you join us on podcasts, you would never know. So, our audience on LinkedIn has a little more understanding of the dynamics that are going on.
Yeah, that's a great point. So if you're not watching us live and following us on LinkedIn live, it's great. It's a great experience. You can actually message us as we're in the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, our theme, remember, this year is being joyful, making joy, 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 joy. One thing I'm joyful about is that it is officially summer. By that, I mean school has ended and the pool has opened. So That's especially when you live in a place like Texas where it's real hot. The opening of the pool is a joyful thing.
Indeed.
And so we're just looking forward to this summer. I know so many of you guys are eager for some time off. I hope you're able to build some joyful family rest, relaxation time, and also work on all your new summer projects and initiatives, which we've been talking with you about. Along that same vein, Matt, you get to do my least favorite job.
Yeah.
Joy words.
Right. Joy words. This is from the book Happiness Found in Translation. These are different words of joy from around the world. So
Which, to be clear, I like the words. I just don't like being in charge of pronouncing them. That's all.
Yeah. But you're going to love this one. The first one is fiaka. So fiaka is Croatian.
Okay.
Which you've actually been to Croatia. I have not. I'm ready to go to Croatia. Fiaka is the relaxation of body and mind. It's sleepiness, drowsiness, the sweetness of doing nothing. Everyone needs a little fiaka in their life.
Yeah. Sorry, I took a whole trip because I'm going to talk about an article today in State of the Union that just made me think about that. So you'll have to bring it back up when I do our article about.
Okay. The next one is Chinese. This is Wu Wei. And Wu Wei is doing through non-doing. So listen, this is great. Wu Wei is natural, spontaneous, effortless action, skillfully flowing with the currents of life.
Yeah, I like that one. I'm going to have to think about that one a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. And the last one comes from Italy. It's Italian. Fiero, and so Fiero is justified pride and satisfaction in one's achievements, the feeling of a job well done, being content with one's efforts. Fiero.
Well, that is a great one for the end of the semester, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I love so much about graduation, about the punctuation of the end of the semester, is that you can look back over this finite amount of time and say, here's what we accomplished, here's what we did, here are the students who have been successful and moved on, right? So that's a great one.
It's great.
Good work. Good picking today. Okay,
Thanks.
let's do the State of the Union. Okay, well, we have two articles in this State of the Union, which are a continuation of the saga. First of all, the U.S. News and World Report is continuing to change their ranking methodology. A couple of new items. So I'm not going to go over the whole big kerfuffle because I've been covering it for weeks. There's a lot of stuff going on. But the new pieces of information are they are going to start emphasizing outcome measurements in the rankings. So it used to be that they looked a lot of like input things, and now they're actually looking at more of the college's success in graduating students. So they're looking at the graduating students from different backgrounds. They are taking out the measurement of alumni giving, which I think is really interesting. And I think for some of our schools where maybe your alumni are giving back in service, but not so much these like gigantic donations like Harvard might have, right?
Yeah.
They also are not going to rank undergraduate colleges by their class size, by how many students in the top of their high school class they enroll, or by how many faculty have terminal degrees. So that's really interesting. There's just more of an emphasis on success with the students you enroll rather than some of these other metrics, which are like prestige metrics instead of value for students. So I think that's going to be interesting to see who gets mad about that.
The big kerfuffle.
The big kerfuffle. Speaking of which, we also have the kerfuffle with the NCAA. Here's another really interesting development. The University of South Carolina, NCAA, and Pac-12 conferences are violating federal law by not classifying college athletes as employees. That's what the National Labor Relations Board in Los Angeles alleged last week. They filed a complaint against the university and those two athletic entities on Thursday. They're going to have a hearing before a judge in November, where they want the judge to declare that the players are employees. There's a lot of things to think about with this, but one thing is that if players are then declared employees, then they have the right to unionize. So like we've seen with graduate assistants, like we've seen with some faculty, right? If all of a sudden that becomes an employee of the institution, it opens up a lot of possibilities for your athletes. Obviously, critics of this idea are like, hey, this is going to erode the amateur nature of our collegiate sports, which is interesting to me because for some of these bigger institutions, it is only amateur for the student, not for the institution. It is very professional for the institution. They're making a lot of money off of it, but they are using amateur athletes. And so that's an interesting thing to think about how those two things play off of each other. This actually comes because USC had a policy that requires athletes to be positive during media interviews and only post privately on social media. And so they're saying you are treating them like an employee by being able to control their behavior in that way. You should then continue on that trajectory and allow them to be employees.
Wow.
Here's something really interesting. On the other side of the coin, it says many student athletes are earning real money in today's world of college sports and also earning a college degree worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some within the NLRB would replace that system with one where a young adult could get fired after a few bad games in the middle of the season. So this idea that we're giving you room and board as long as you perform like an employee would, but if you don't, then we can fire you, and then we would rescind all the privileges like your college degree. It's very complicated, Matt. I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, this is just a lot is in flux, right?
Mhm.
So coming out of this, it might take, I don't know, 5 to 10 years for this to really be settled. Like, how are we going to be treating our student athletes? And we have to acknowledge there's a huge difference between even within Division I, right?
For sure.
When you have maybe your top 50 programs, and then the programs that are actually profitable, those programs that are actually profitable with football or whatever, and then you have all these other schools that aren't really profitable. It really is a great opportunity for the student to get a degree, right? And that's really a valuable outcome for them. So
For sure. Pretty interesting.
yeah.
All right. I present this one coming from the Higher Ed Drive. This is an opportunity, I think. This article says that nearly 3/4 of high school students who graduated in 2023 aspire to attend college. A lesser share, only 2/3, are actually expected to enroll. And as you would expect, there's some gaps based on different demographic factors. So 73% of Hispanic or Latino students would like to enroll, but only 64% believed they will. The two smallest gaps are white students, 74% saying they wanted to enroll, only 67% anticipated they would. Asian and Asian American students, 90% wants to enroll. 85 said they expected to. So, Matt, I bring that up as I think this is a problem that we can solve as we're talking about decreasing number of students who are enrolling in our colleges. And it seems to me like it is not an issue of them not wanting to or not valuing, but there are roadblocks to them actually enrolling and getting into school. And so I'm just wondering for our schools to be thinking about, how do we find that population of students that would like to go to college, but for whatever reason, because they don't think it's attainable, because they have to get a job, because they're not sure of the process, how do we find those students and give them this pathway forward to be able to enroll? So I think it's a big opportunity with those different populations of students.
It's amazing. So my oldest two kids, their high school, they would take trips and visit colleges. And it was, so just a mix of maybe 4 schools that they would go to. But one of those schools was so intentional about like helping that student get on board or go through the process for how to apply, that they have a huge pipeline from that high school to a regional state university, and pretty amazing. So it just really lowering the barriers, and it's kind of amazing because I don't know that we always think that what barriers are there for these students, but to be able to lower those barriers for students to be able to apply. And as we've talked a lot, you've definitely talked a lot about just navigating the financial side.
Yeah, and you are saying that this is like the linchpin here is college counselors. So just going and saying, help me understand why students would not apply to college. What are the things we need to overcome? How can we provide these stopgap measures for them to be able to go along in the process more easily? I think is a really great idea.
Oh yeah, working with the guidance counselors in these schools, there's so much opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. The next one is about how non-elite colleges in the U.S. need to start really focusing their effort and energy on big moves to become financially stable, specifically because of declining enrollment, rising costs, the sunsetting of COVID funding. This is all coming out of EY Parthenon, based on financial metrics and outcome metrics. About 20% of the colleges in the US are at financial risk. And so they're talking about, big things like spending endowment money as an investment to set yourself up for success, not spending that as a budget, like this is where we're going to make our budget money, but actually saying we're going to take this money and invest to then be successful in the coming years. Debuting new academic offerings and increasing revenue from donations. So like a focused capital campaign to be able to raise money. Doing some really serious soul searching on which programs are making money and cutting those that are not, don't have enough students or need too many faculty to support them. And then also, Matt, which you and I are seeing all the time in the last couple of months, especially mergers and acquisitions, just schools saying, how do we consolidate and use some administration so we don't have to duplicate, we don't have to have two of everything, but we can actually consolidate and be more successful. So I like that warning because we are not at the place where it's like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. What are we going to do? You still are on the leading edge to be able to set yourself up to be successful, but we do have to be thinking about that. Because it is something that we're going to have to grapple with in the coming years.
I think today's topic, though, is also kind of needs to be a part of that conversation as well. So as we're thinking about improving the financial health of your institution, I think our topic today is, of course, I'm a little biased, but I think as we unpack it today, we'll weave that in how this improves not only your students, but the financial health of your institution.
Okay, two more for you. University Business has an article called "Are Private Colleges Losing Students to a Bad Marketing Tactic?" I would just encourage you to read this. It is really about how over the years, although the average published sticker price for private nonprofit colleges is over $57,000. It's 20% more than in 2006, which is actually not that much. But what we're seeing is that parents and students see that number and they're like, there's no way I could ever do that, cross that off the list, right? Because they don't understand 43% of the cost on average is covered by grant aid. So you see that number and you automatically are like, that's totally, we can't do it. Without understanding all of the levers that a school has to be able to support you. And so you see schools like Houghton and Washington and Jefferson, who we are happy to be able to support, who are doing a tuition reset. And they're like, we're just going to tell you this is how much it's going to cost, which will make it so that you are willing to apply. And then we can talk about what kind of help we can give you. So
yeah, I mean, Spring Hill College, when we were on their campus and hearing about them cutting the advertised price in half.
Yeah.
Because for the students they serve, they found out that just so many students were, or prospective students were just not applying because of the sticker shock. And they had no idea. Again, they have no idea of what the actual cost of the 4 years is going to be. Yeah, and it goes back to the conversation we've had about like transparency, and that would be very helpful.
Yeah, so there was a determination somewhere along the way where schools started to say, when we look like we cost more, we seem more prestigious. And then we can say to a student like, oh, well, we want you so much, we're going to cut that in half. And now I think the pendulum is swinging back to, no, we want to be a good value. We want you to be able to feel like you can afford it. And then we can plug in some extra support if you need it. So pretty interesting to see all of the tuition resets that are coming on.
Yeah.
All right, this last one I will try because I do want to talk about career. I'm going to try not to sit on for too long, but I love it so much. It makes me very happy. It's a New York Times article, which is called "Why Universities Should Be More Like Monasteries." Specifically around the things, Matt, that you and I have been talking about in terms of students being hungry for quiet, focused, present experiences. This article talks about how there's a class at the University of Pennsylvania, which is called Living Deliberately. And they have to give up technology. They take a vow of silence for a month. They read about different monastic traditions and adopt some of their practices. They give up their phones. They come to class and they just spend time with each other, reading and deep thinking and writing and journaling. It's really interesting. He suggests that they don't share personal information, that they only get to know each other through ideas. And so you wake up at 5 in the morning and you journal every 30 minutes and you just have these conversations about really deep ideas. He also teaches a class called Existential Despair, which, man, college students are going to eat that up. Both of these classes have like super long wait lists. In Existential Despair, students meet once a week from 5 p.m. to midnight in a building with comfy couches. They give over their phones and they curl up to read the assigned novel cover to cover. So you have this amount of time to read it. And then they stay up late discussing it. And this professor says, these books are not about hope or overcoming things or heroic stories. These novels start sad, in the middle they're sad, and they stay sad. And he says, I'm not concerned with their 20-year-old self. I'm worried about them at my age dealing with breast cancer, their dad dying, their child being an addict, a career that never worked out, so that when they're dealing with those bigger things, they know they're not alone, which I love so much. It makes me want to cry. It's just such good thinking of like, how do we sit in really hard things? And he's like, students are so hungry for this. They need this modeling of radically low tech experiences. And we're able to teach them in these classes about how technology should be a learning tool. It should not be in charge of everything in your life. And so students are like, I was sad to get my iPhone back. I was really happy to experience a world where learning was no technology. I didn't have my computer. I didn't have my phone. I didn't have anything. I just sat in a room with pencil and paper and learned things. And so it is worth the entire read of that article. But the summary is, the point of college is to help students become independent humans who can choose the gods they serve and the rules they follow, rather than allow someone else to choose for them, which goes back to all of this technology, which is created to hook you in and make you pay attention and give up the valuable things in life because you're looking at a screen, right? So it is a great article. I would run to and read. Yeah, really good. Okay, that is the State of the Union. So let us dive into the importance of a cohesive and prescriptive path from college to career and beyond. I would like to start this conversation talking about some of the problems that we have with the connection of college and career. So we have sort of two camps, and I think they don't have to be mutually exclusive, but oftentimes they are. We have a camp that's like liberal arts all the way. Don't dare say the word career. This is about creating good thinkers, and we're going to change your life by this liberal arts. And then we have this other side that's like, I am in college to get a job. It is really important to my livelihood. I have to be able to provide for my family. I need a straight line between college and job. And somewhere in there, we have to be able to articulate the value of both, exactly what this article is talking about, right? Becoming good thinkers who are free to make decisions about themselves. And also, I need to have a job and support my family.
Right.
And that is a very tangled conversation for us to have with parents, with students, through admissions. And we have got to get better at talking about that with our value proposition of college. So that's a really big problem with the career piece. The other problem I see is that we do not have a 4-year plan. So often when I'm consulting with a school in a career center, that is a junior or senior emphasis, and it is way too late. We're going to make an argument that should start even before students come to your campus. You need to start talking about that career engagement, and you need to have a prescriptive plan for the 4 years to set them up for success. Okay, 2 more problems with this career piece. One is the COVID erosion of soft skills and social skills. So it was hard before to teach students how to interview and to show up and greet and all of that stuff, but it's even harder now just because of what they've been through for the last 2 years. So we have to have an element of that in our programs to be able to help our students. And then the last piece, which we'll talk about, is this kind of dilution of college recruiting, which is to say that we are not having employers on many campuses come to campuses to recruit your students, but they are offering a job to any student who wants it. And so the value proposition of that is much, much lower because I'm not coming to hire, Westmont students. I'm saying like any college student would be fine. And so that's a huge dilution of getting our employers to campus. Anything you want to add about the problem there?
No.
Okay. So I think some solutions for this, the idea that you need to have a plan where you can articulate the value. The very first one is you have to use data and actual concrete things to be able to tell the value of the college job connection on your campus. So like I said, we want to talk to admissions and parents about this is why you want to send your student to our school, because yes, they're going to get liberal arts and they're going to be able to expand their mind. But here are the outcome measurements we can actually give you that are going to help you have assurance that your student is going to be set up for job success after they graduate and on. So Matt, you have some metrics about this that NACE really digs into.
Yeah, but before I get into those, I just think it's so important as we're talking about the role of career services on your campus. I want you to just look at what your campus is doing and ask if it's unique. Is it differentiated? Is it an area of excellence? Or is it, like you said, this kind of, it checks the boxes. We can say that we have all these great things, but for us, what Rachel, you and I would say is that this emphasis on career can be a huge differentiator for your campus and have a huge impact not only on student success, but alumni engagement. And as we continue to talk through this, like I said, the health of your institution can come from excellence in the Career Center, the work that you do with your students. And so I get really passionate about it because the role of the Career Center can be in the heart of the campus. When a family picks your school, like you said, they're thinking about the outcome a lot of the time, especially when they're looking at the cost. And so going back to how do you measure the value of career on your campus, NACE
Wait, before you move on, I want to say something about what you just said, because I think it's really important. I actually think that we're talking about a paradigm shift between career center and career centered college, right? So yes, we have a career center and we all know what the career center does. Their job is to get students jobs. But what you and I are talking about is career centered, woven throughout every department, first year experience, res life, work study, that everything we're doing has an articulated piece of setting our students up to be career ready, right? And the standalone career center where it's like, oh yeah, if you want to know about jobs, go there, versus that is woven throughout every moment of your university, is a really important paradigm shift, I think.
What's really remarkable is that when we were working in Career Center, it was centered under the first year experience.
That's right.
That changed everything. So if you think about where should the Career Center be, I think that right there as a point of differentiation to be able to say to a family, we don't just have a career center, we are career centered, is really powerful. So I love that language. Thank you, Rachel. So NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers, they do a lot of research, and one of the things that they're helping you understand is really the value of a student being engaged in all of the career services that your campus provides. And it's pretty amazing. So why should we invest in all of these career services? And so one of the things that they point out is the number of job offers that a student receives is directly related to their involvement or taking advantage of services. If a student takes advantage of just one thing on your campus related to career, that increases the number of job offers that they get from 1.0, which is a student who doesn't participate in anything, to 1.24 job offers. And then it's really cool. The next point, every other service that they participate in increases the number of job offers by 0.05. Or in other words, if they participated in 20 more, they'd have another complete job offer. So that would increase from 1.24 to 2.24. So it's just really
And so we're saying, when you're saying
powerful.
services, you're saying like resumes, interviewing, those kinds of things.
Interviews, yeah. If they go to any of those career readiness kinds of activities. Then you can look at the number of job offers from those. Paid internships increase significantly if a student's participating in career services. And we know that internships are really important. But the thing that is, I think, really important as we're talking about equity on your campus, career services fuels equity. The access to this whole network, it's really powerful and makes a huge impact. And the other interesting thing that Nace pointed out is that the students who take the most advantage of career services today are minority students. So your students of color are the ones who take more advantage of those services. So it's really powerful to think about. A great opportunity. But all of those things, if you're starting with your freshmen, impacts a student's engagement. And as we've talked all year, as students are engaged with people, professionals on your campus, they have those hooks, the reason to stay. And so it increases student success, which leads to higher graduation rates, which leads to happier alumni. So there's a whole lot of value there that Nace points out. One measure that I thought was really interesting is a student's likelihood to move on. So Nace had this great podcast, basically, webinar, and they were saying a secondary measure of success is how many students interview and then continue in that interviewing process after the first interview. It's a great measure. It also helps you internally, like, are we doing a good job of this career readiness piece?
Yeah.
They can articulate, this is why I'm a great fit. They know how to sell the value of their education and what they can provide to an employer. So going back to just how to measure success, looking at it by major. So not just in general, but if we're talking about liberal arts and some of these liberal arts degrees, to be able to talk specifically of how you're helping those students connect their major their major with outcomes. And so that's powerful. My favorite is alumni engagement as a measure, because if you build this the right way, you should be bringing alumni into the process. So if you think about a recent grad who doesn't have $1 million to give to the school, but they have time. And so measuring alumni engagement is really powerful. Princeton has made a really big point of this. This is an important measure of what percentage of students are engaging with our alumni. And as they've continued to grow their program, it's doubled just in the last couple of years, the percentage. So that's really powerful as well. So all of these things of how do we measure the impact? Well, if you can start to show your university that you're increasing alumni engagement, then those lead to alum who are happy. But if a student starts this process and graduates and feels like, so a huge outcome is the percentage of students who say, my college or university helped me with my job search and helped me find my career. That percentage of students would be a direct measure for the health of your institution and the health of your now alum. So
yeah, I want to go back to something you said about equity, because that piece of social capital, which we hear so often that our minority students don't have that advantage, right? They don't have this sort of social connection through different businesses that then is going to kind of promote them, give them internships, offer them mentorships, those sorts of things. And actually, it is an articulation of why college is so important to some of those underrepresented populations, because we have social capital to be able to then leverage and get you plugged into and say, here are our alumni, you are now connected to them, they're committed to help you be successful. You all of a sudden have this whole gigantic network of people who want to be invested in your success. It is a really powerful piece. And to be able to articulate that and say, yes, the degree is important, but what you're buying into is this whole network of people who want to help you be successful is such a powerful thing. And it is a springboard for our students to be able to leverage and then go on to be successful. So, Matt, the thing is, I don't think we have to convince people, especially academic and student development people, that the career piece is important. I think we have to convince them that they need to articulate it in a clear way so that people can understand why it's valuable, right? Because it's like, it goes without saying, of course, our students, we want them to have jobs, but what are the ways that you are articulating and creating a clear and prescriptive path for them to be able to move on to get jobs and be successful? So I love that.
That's great.
Okay. So the next thing that I want to talk about is a 4-year plan. This is a 4-year university plan. This is not based on major. I will try to remain calm on this subject. I have very strong opinions about it. I'm probably going to make somebody mad. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to. But this idea, I think I've said it before, the idea that like a student writes down their major and then that's their major is crazy town. That is not their real major. That is just a made up major that in the moment they decided that they were going to do, for the most part. I mean, sometimes you have students that are like, no, for real, I know. But you have got to have every single one of your freshmen engaging in the Career Center, either through advising or some sort of career exploration or like certification, right? We want confirmation of your major. And so when I talk about how we consult with Pathlight, one of the first things we ask a school is, how do you feel about your students who are still deciding on their major? Because I would argue with you, 80% of your freshmen are still deciding on their major, whether they have declared it or not, right?
Absolutely.
So how do we know that these are students who have actually thought about the major, understand what jobs they can get, understand the academic rigor, right? What is the pathway? And so you have to have this sort of major certification. And I find that schools fall into 2 categories. They're like, we want them to declare, we don't want deciding students because we know they're our most at-risk student. And so they're like very quickly shuttling them into majors. My response to that is, I think it is a false sense of security that you have students in majors when they have not been certified or confirmed. They've just picked a thing and we don't actually know how much work went into deciding that thing, right? And I understand the hardship because you have students who come with a lot of hours and we want to get them connected in major work really quickly. But my strategy has always been early, like in the summer, let's do major certification. Tell parents, we're not going to put your kids in a position where they're going to change their major 5 times, because we have this program that we do in the summer that is going to give them a certified major, which means that then they will be connected with faculty in their major. And if they don't want to do it in the summer, that's okay. That's how we use our first year experience program to do exploration, to learn about jobs, to learn about decision making and all of those different elements. But it is very difficult to understand the seriousness of a student's declaration of major unless you have vetted it in some way and you set them up for success when you have done that thing, right? Okay, I wasn't too unkind about that, right?
No, not at all. I think it's important for everyone. If you haven't heard, Rachel used to in the freshman orientation, I don't know what you'd call it, freshman orientation, have a session that was about confirming or finding a major. And and it was a packed room. The students wanted to be there, the parents wanted to be there, and it was interesting conversations, right? So
Yeah.
just to go through the process of confirming I'm making a good choice, or wow, maybe there's some other major if that's the way accounting is going to be.
Yeah, it's funny, Matt, because you think about in that room, you have students who are like, I'm not sure. You have moms who stereotypically are like, I want them to be happy. And you have dads who stereotypically are like, what's the job and can they support themselves? Right. So it's a really interesting conversation for families to have together. I also would say you need to have on your campus a major expert. One of the things that I think happens a lot of times is because we disperse our students so quickly into majors. I have a bunch of chemistry majors, and what I know is chemistry, but I don't have the tools that I need in order to say, I don't know if this is actually the best major for you, right? And actually, it's a little bit uncomfortable because I've picked chemistry. It's my most favorite thing. How dare you not want to do it for the rest of your life, right? So you need to have a person who's designated as a major expert, right? Major expert, where they can say, this is a place where we're deciding and exploring and talking about all of the possibilities so that you can make a good decision. And actually, that major expert has to be a job expert because we want our students to have an eye on jobs, not just pick a major, right? We're not just saying history major, we're saying history major because I want to do these different things.
And a lot of times, let's be honest, we've put that major expert on the faculty to know,
Right.
with the degree, with this degree, this is what you should do. Well, faculty have picked their career.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have not actually experienced a professional role with that major. And so
Sure.
I think that's a really important that exactly what you said, that they're not only aware of the majors, an expert on the majors, but they're also connecting with what's out there related to that major.
Yeah, Matt. And I would just say, when I became a career counselor, that I was like, oh, we're seriously talking about the meaning of these students' lives.
Yeah.
That is the foundation of these conversations. Who am I? How am I going to impact the world for good? What gifts do I have that are going to make a difference? What is my purpose? What is my value? Well, those are really big things that you need to have expertise in. You can't just say, well, here are the 7 things you can do with chemistry. You've got to take a step back and really look at the whole person, right? So I also look for elements like, how do we embed this in our first year experience program? How do we embed it in advising? If we want to talk about evenness of advising, even beyond the freshman year, do they know what they want to do when they graduate? Are they being successful in their major? Do they have plans for an internship? How do we provide these questions to advisors to then go in and mine that data and say, okay, Career Center, here's a list of every student who isn't sure about their major. Go connect with them and do some career exploration and confirmation with them. Our friends at Shriner do Shriner Grow, which I love as another career-centered piece where they go in and for every work study program, the supervisor has to sit with the student and say, what did you learn that you can put on your resume? What are the soft skills? Tell me about a time when you handled conflict. That is a way to take something that already exists, like work study, and make it broader and say, we are career-centered. We are going to give you the tools to be able to, when you do an interview, have some very specific things to say about how you worked in the cafeteria. And here's all of the stuff that you learned about that. So really creative ways to weave that in, but it for sure has to be a 4-year plan. Because if with our freshmen and sophomores, we can confirm their major and get them good experiences, then when we pass that off to the career readiness side of the house, it is like sunshine and gold, right? Like, I'm sure I know about it. Now I just need to have some skills to be able to progress in the work I do. So super important. Happy to consult with you guys about that, but I think it is going to become more and more valuable to show that to parents because they just are going to want to know that their students are being set up for success.
I also think, as you said about COVID and how that created, this gap with some social skills or soft skills, and taking this time with a freshman and helping them learn how to process and understand what they're learning and how that applies and who they are and all of those things. Just taking that time to have that connection with them will help with some of these issues that have happened developmentally for them. So,
well, the
really
thing is that
important.
we always say, like, that process of picking your career, you're going to do it 8 times. Even if you're not changing like fields, being able to say, this is what I value, this is who I am, this is what I want to do. Every time you get a new job offer, you have to do that. So it really is this process. We're going to teach you how to do that when you're freshmen. And then you're just going to practice all the way until you retire. Here's what I know about myself. Here's what I'm interested in. So I think it's so powerful.
For them to learn who they are and becoming an expert so that they can self-advocate, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So thinking about then, if we can get that confirmation and get them to know about themselves, we have this gap where, you know, we have experienced this where we have people coming in to interview with us and they're like, I mean, I'm about to graduate and I've never done an in-person interview. And so things like that we don't do on Zoom, like how you greet somebody in person, right? How do you do small talk? How do you sit at the table and do you ask for water or not? And what do you like, what should you wear? And like just all of those little things that in general we had to tell students about, but now they have a gap in their experience. Not only that, but they don't know what they don't know. So you could ask a student, are you prepared for this interview? And they're like, for sure. And you say, how did you prepare? And they're like, I didn't. Okay, then you're not prepared. Right? If you can't point to how you prepared, you're probably not prepared.
My favorite interview story, side note, and I know I'm about to get the side eye from Rachel, but my favorite interview story is where the prospect candidate got overheated, started getting really hot because they were nervous.
They were wearing a suit.
Yeah, so they had a jacket on and it was buttoned, and they started to feel so like in a Zoom meeting you could just like, you know, take your camera off for a second, but in real life, what this student did was pulled their suit coat over their head, like they'd never.
I think the
first time they ever wore a coat.
Yeah, the interviewer said, if you're getting hot, you can take your jacket off. And he was like, okay, take it off like that, like a jersey, right?
Yeah.
And they're like,
right. Well,
okay,
that was new.
Yeah.
You got to learn those things, that in-person experience. So
yeah. The last thing I'll say about that is just they don't know what they don't know. And so you have to have this expertise in saying, this is what you say, you need to have questions ready, right? Just all of that expertise guidance that you have in that readiness piece. Okay. I do want to talk about alumni network development. I know you feel very passionate about this. This is about really recruiting employers to come and interview your students for internships as well as jobs. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, if you think about career readiness, and so a lot of times, you know, we all have limited budgets, but you have alumni who are passionate about their experience and what they now know. And if you can create basically an army of alum to help you through this process from the very beginning. So we've talked about job shadowing, being able to do kind of an externship where they just the student ask questions to learn more about that job and do some more exploring there. All these opportunities for an alum to help you because they want to help you. And so the job shadowing, the mock interviewing, resume review, all of these things, and then just networking, all of those things, that exactly what you said, Rachel. If we're dependent on the latest career job finding tool platform on our campus to just do the work for us, we're really missing out on not only not providing real opportunities, but you're missing out on a real opportunity for alumni to be involved. And so if you can just think of all the different places along that journey that a student will take, and then the outcome of that is the student feels the value of going through all 4 years, being connected with different alumni, and then when they're out in the world, they want to give back in the same way because it was so meaningful to them.
Yeah,
So,
Matt, I love when a good theory can be applied in places we haven't thought of it. And so I just would like to apply our identify, connect, solve, and measure to this piece. And that if our emphasis is solve the problem of students getting a job by giving them a place where they can find jobs and go and apply for them, we've missed the point, right? Obviously, our most self-motivated students are going to do that. You've given them the tool, they can go do it. But without this connection piece and mentorship piece and alumni piece to say, we're going to coach you up on this, then all you've done has been like, here's a tool. I mean, they might as well use like Indeed, right? They might as well just use LinkedIn to be able to do that if that's
right.
the solution, as opposed to this coaching and mentoring that goes in to say, okay, do this, now this, that looks great, go find, right? So it is really interesting that it's solve above connect. Maybe even we take out connect when we just say, well, all the jobs are posted, go find one.
Right. Well, there's a huge thing, the hidden job market, which is who you know when they think of, oh, there's a new opportunity opening up. If they're already connected with your soon-to-be graduates, that's an awesome opportunity for this hidden job market. And it's so important in, as we talk about providing this equity. So having a student go through this process and be connected with your alumni opens up so many doors that they won't have access to if you don't. Once they graduate, they're just a resume on Indeed, and that's not providing that equity or fairness for them. You have a huge opportunity there.
Yeah, it's good. You talked a little bit about the outcome of this, like when you and Braden were building this and just saying like, here's what we want to do for our students. We have some, remember we said campus-wide, not departmental-wide. So we have some departments that have a great pipeline for a certain number of students. Like if you're this faculty's favorite, they're going to connect you to the people they want. But you guys had different outcome measurements for a campus-wide, career-centered sort of approach to provide opportunities for all students on campus.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be surprising for me to say one of those important measures were how many alum do we have in our system who have said, I want to give back in that way, in any way, and they would be able to say, I want to give back by doing mock interviews, or I want to provide some job shadowing, or I'll come to an alumni networking event that you're hosting. So the number of alumni, we knew a healthy system is going to have more alumni, which then increases the number of employers, right? So the other thing is just the number of employers, not in the world, but the number of employers who are connected and understand the value of our programs. So you could have two columns. If you want to say you have 50,000 employers who recruit from your campus, okay. But how many of those are connected, understand your mission, understand the awesome, unique, experiential programs that you provide? So the number of employers who are connected, obviously then the number of internships, paid internships. So paid internships come from connected employers. And so those paid internships are really important. That then lead to the number of jobs. So so many times a career center looks at basically if you're following along, I kind of flipped it, right? So many times we think about jobs and not necessarily like even measuring whether or not a student placed in those jobs. We had X number of jobs and we had X number of employers, but I'm saying look at connection. So I love that we're using our funnel for this and saying, we need to measure that connected piece. And that then goes to, I love this, a simple measure, which is how many of our students are receiving letters of recommendations from our alum. That's it's a unique, you can then say to the families that are looking at your, to enroll at your institution, look at how connected we are. It's not uncommon for an alum to be so involved that they write letters of recommendation. This is the number of, on average, letters of recommendation our students receive.
Yeah. I want to add to that there's something about this piece of recruiting where it's like you have to have an expertise and and experience in jobs that ask for this major, being able to come back and say, but perhaps there are other majors that could fulfill your requirements too, right? So in that way, you're really an advocate of saying, here are all of these jobs, and here's everybody on our campus that I think is going to be able to do a good job that you should consider in your pipeline. Because a lot of times people hire what they know, but we need to be able to speak really broadly about the experience that our students bring and the ways that they learn in their major that then can be applied to another field. So I think that's really important as well. This conversation actually came out of this article where they are looking specifically on, they're doing research specifically on career interventions and the outcome of economic equity. So this article is only looking at, did these different interventions have a positive effect on a student's mobility economically after college? And you and I have some, that made my nose itchy. You and I have some problems about this article because of the very restrictive lens that it is providing. So I would say you guys just go look. It has a long list of interventions. It has a lot of different, like, and some schools do this and some schools do this. What I want to tell you is, if we take out the only emphasis on economic mobility, which is like how much these interventions in career impact how much money a student is going to make, right? And we look at instead at the evidence in the literature on a positive outcome for students. Here's what this article tells us. These career interventions, there is maximum evidence that it does the following thing: improves college persistence and graduation, improves academic achievement, post-secondary degree attainment, increases student efficacy, self-efficacy, human capital, independence, and adaptability, improves career decision-making skills, career confidence, vocational identity, career satisfaction, course completion and degree attainment, and student learning, including content knowledge, retention, and skill attainment, such as problem solving, collaboration, and communication skills. I'll take that, right?
Yeah.
And you would be hard pressed to tease apart all of those skills that these career interventions provide for a student from their success moving forward. The social capital that they have, the practice, their mentorship, their clear vision of what they want to do in the world, that all speaks to me that says we need to really invest in this piece on our campuses, right?
If you said to a family, this is what our career-centered program does,
yeah,
who wouldn't want that? Yeah,
for sure. Okay, so you guys, in my last few seconds, action items. How do you confirm your first year's majors? Super important. If you don't do that, we need to talk. Second, what are the career elements that you have in all 4 years? And I'm talking about for all students. We can't say we serve 50 students, but we have 2,000. The Career Center needs to serve every single student in an integrated approach through academics and student development. Let's talk about Pathlight. You need a 4-year program. How are you working across departments for job opportunities? So who is doing that cross-departmental work to make sure that we are setting all of our students up for success, not just our accounting majors? And then how are you working on your alumni connections to leverage mentorships, internships, letters of recommendation, right? How are we identifying alumni who would love to be engaged with our students to set them up for success? Matt, my whole argument is this has to be comprehensive. We have to have students who are sure of what they want to do. And that comes through the certification. Yes, I've explored it and I know what I want to do. And then we have to have students who are prepared. They have to have all of the skills to be able to show up and do a good job in internships and resume writing and all interviews, right? And then the cornerstone is opportunity. How do we leverage our alumni and our social network and the reputation of our colleges and our programs to give them opportunity? And those things flow together. They're sure, they're prepared, and they have opportunity. And that is a message that every student and parent will love to hear on your campus, right?
It's differentiating, and it is an emphasis on student success.
Absolutely. Hey, that's a wrap.
Well,
we are going to
this
take the
academic
summer
year
off.
is officially over.
Yeah, we're going to take the summer off and we will be back in August. You guys, I hope that you find time for rest and relaxation and joy. We are always honored when you spend time with us. So happy summer.